Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. The family of a woman killed by a serial killer in 2022 are one step closer to hopefully being able to get their daughter's remains excavated from a Winnipeg landfill. With the latest, here's APTN's T.R. Wheatley.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew told a room full of reporters the Brady Road landfill search for Ashley Shingus is expected to start in December, saying the process will resemble a search that was done this past year for two other women who were also killed by the same serial killer as Ashley. The Shingus family welcomed the Premier to their home in the St. Teresa Anishinaabe Nation for a sweat lodge ceremony earlier this month. Albert and Teresa wanted to start the physical search of the Brady landfill for their daughter Ashley off in a good way. Kinew says he was grateful for the moving ceremony.
So now we're moving ahead to the next steps, which involve hiring the searchers. We've done sort of our preliminary test search already. This is very much the same process we used at Prairie Green Landfill, and now we're just doing it at Brady. And because we're there, the City of Winnipeg has been great. Winnipeg Police Service have been great about collaborating with us.
In 2022, Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Ashley Shingus were brutally murdered. Their serial killer is serving a concurrent life sentence for first-degree murder ×4. Harris and Myron's remains ended up at a privately owned Prairie Green landfill. Last December, the province began searching, and after only 3 months, some remains from both were found. Shingus was killed a couple months before the others, and her remains ended up at Brady Road. She went unidentified for 3 years. Even during the trial, she was only known as Buffalo Woman. It was months after the killer went to prison that police went back to interview him, which gave the police more evidence to identify Shingus. Kinew says with the work at Prairie Green now completed, they have begun moving equipment to Brady landfill.
We've been doing the decommissioning activities, so it might look like there's activities on site, but it's not related to the search per se. It's because we had buildings there that were moving to Brady, trailers that were being moved to other locations, things like that.
This mobile home was placed near Prairie Green for a safe space for the Harris and Myron families to go to during the search. It may move to Brady Road, but it may also serve another purpose. Melissa Robinson is Harris's cousin.
We wanted to ensure that it was going to be fair. And we like the idea of, giving it to, an organization maybe that could use it for our unsheltered women, our women at risk.
She now works with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, helping other families in need. And just last week, Harris's daughter, Cambria Harris, began working for the province.
Cambria's a rock star.
She is currently the special assistant to the finance minister with a focus on reconciliation.
She showed poise, intelligence, moral courage, and I just think this is a great Manitoban that we have, and hopefully over her time working with us in government we'll be able to build her up for the next stage of her career and the next stage of contributions to public life in Canada.
The fact that political spaces are hiring people with lived experiences is a good thing, says Robinson.
And looking at doing these types of roles, you need to have people that are impacted. People, sadly, that know that hurt, that know that loss.
The Brady Road landfill search for Ashley is also expected to include searching for Tanya Nepanak. She went missing in 2011. A different killer was charged in 2012 for her disappearance and murder, but those charges were stayed. Back then, Winnipeg police only searched for a week and were not successful. As of right now, though, the province isn't saying much about what the search for Tanya will look like. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, TR. Meanwhile, question period in Manitoba's legislature got heated earlier this week when a member of the opposition interrupted Premier Wab Kinew. MLA Jeff Wharton made crying sounds and gestures while Kinew was saying some oppressed groups in Canada had to fight for the right to vote. Here's APTN Sab Jonesa with more.
Say that they were only doing their job.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew was caught off guard during question period Tuesday after a Conservative MLA showed a, quote, complete lack of respect, unquote, towards groups of people once being denied the right to vote.
And you know what is different about people on this side of the House? The entitlement isn't there because we had to fight for what we have. It was never given to people on this side of the House. In living memory, people couldn't vote. People
Oh, we just heard. I want the permanent record of this assembly to show that when I was talking about the fact that my father was not allowed to vote in this country, the member for Red River North said in a sarcastic voice, wah, wah.
Gross. Kinew was speaking on new legislation his government proposed to protect vulnerable groups from getting their, quote, rights trampled on by future governments when invoking the notwithstanding clause. The notwithstanding clause allows a government to make a law that overrides certain parts of the Charter of Rights for up to 5 years. Kinew worries that future governments may use the clause to advance agendas with anti-2S LGBTQ rhetoric or that target religious minorities. MLA for Red River North Jeff Wharton is the man who mocked disenfranchisement, which impacted Indigenous people, women, and many other minorities for decades after Canada formed.
During the Premier's comments and answers to a question that he didn't answer, he had mentioned that I was making sounds towards his father not being able to vote. I disagree with that comment. And
Order, please.
I would ask the Premier at his earliest convenience to table that those comments in Hansard.
Deputy Premier Uzoma Asagwara said along with the comment, Wharton also made crying gestures twice. Asagwara argued that the Premier has a responsibility to ensure Wharton's behavior is reflected in the House's permanent record.
I do want to reinforce and reiterate what's happened here today. The member for Red River North rose on a point of order to double down on making comments and gestures that degraded and minimized the recent in living memory history of Indigenous people being denied the right to vote in our country. And that is shameful.
It is very dehumanizing.
Cody Grote is an assistant professor of history and Indigenous studies at Western University. He says disenfranchisement was the denial of the right to engage and push back against the Canadian political system.
Inuit gained the right to vote in 1950, and again, status Indians not until 1960. There was this heated back and forth, and almost always the question was, were Indigenous peoples mature enough and were we civilized enough to be able to express our opinions and vote in the Canadian electoral system?
He says the right to vote is not something to take lightly.
I think if we don't openly denounce this comment and this rhetoric, then we're saying it is okay to laugh at the fact that Indigenous peoples, in recent memory, in the Premier's parents' generation and my grandparents' generation, didn't have the right to vote.
APTN News reached out to the Progressive Conservatives for comment, but did not hear back before airtime. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Sergeant Tommy Prince was the most decorated First Nations veteran of World War II and the Korean War. He was a member of the famous Devil's Brigade, and while he did a lot to protect his country, it didn't protect him when he came back from war. T.R. Wheatley shows us how people are celebrating his life just days before the military acknowledged its past.
Sergeant Tommy Prince of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, who received numerous awards for his bravery in World War II and the Korean War.
People packed the small community hall in Petersfield, Manitoba on this cool October 25th. It would have been Prince's 110th birthday. Sergeant Tommy Prince Sr. was born here in 1915, and for the first time, Petersfield has come together, along with his family and First Nation, to have a ceremonial celebration. The Anishinaabe man died in 1977 while living on the streets in Winnipeg. He's buried in the city's Field of Heroes. His son, Tommy Prince Jr., says it would have been a special day for his dad if he was still around, as no one really celebrated his birthday.
My father would have been happy, would have been dancing, and just, happy with everybody.
Junior is one of 6 siblings. All of them were split up as children and taken during the 60s scoop. Karen Braun Prince is the youngest.
Fortunately, my older brother and sister were able to meet him later on in his life before he passed, and I never got that opportunity. So I'm a little bit sad about that, but I read so many wonderful things about him. Google is great.
Prince was one of 3 Canadians to get both the Canadian Military Medal and the American Silver Star. He earned 11 medals in total from both World War II and the Korean War. This celebration of life and achievement is also an acknowledgement of sacrifice, not just overseas, but also what Prince and many other Indigenous soldiers faced while here at home. It is happening just days before the Canadian Armed Forces is giving an official apology to those who have served, who have faced racism and discrimination while in the military. Broken Head Chief Gordon Bluesky is a relative of Prince.
I think Sergeant Tommy Prince is a big example of that racism, you know.
Like Prince's kids, Bluesky was scooped too and ended up in the U.S. where he joined the Navy from 1992 through 1998. He's felt the racism firsthand, but says others before him, especially Prince, had it harder.
Any command he was a part of, he was always second in command because he could never be first in command just because of his race. And so I think that has rippling effects even till today. Even back then, he died in the streets, not being acknowledged to the extent that he should have been. His family had to work tirelessly to get not only his name restored.
I'm still fighting for some recognition that he deserves.
Now Junior is looking to get his father's rank changed from sergeant to lieutenant senior grade, and he's looking to Manitoba's Premier for help.
I wrote a letter to our Premier Wab Kinew asking for assistance from the family. 3 times he was given a promotion and he never received it. I have letters here.
Kinew acknowledged the letter at an unrelated event, but makes it clear it's a federal fight.
The military is very protocol driven and it is entirely within the purview of the federal government. So at the same time that I want to support the Prince family, I also don't want to maybe step on any toes that's going to make it counterproductive towards that goal, but yeah, we'll definitely help.
Help the Prince family welcomes as they fight for a father who fought for us all. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Still to come here tonight, the latest on bail reform and much more. Stick around. Welcome back. The federal justice minister was in Manitoba this week to share more information on the recently introduced Bail and Sentencing Reform Act. He says the legislation will bring harsher penalties to those who assault first responders on the job. Sav Jones has more.
The federal justice minister, Sean Fraser, says recently tabled Bill C-14 includes more than 80 concrete measures to do 2 things.
1, to make it harder for violent repeat offenders to be granted bail, and 2, to impose harsher penalties on those who commit some of the most serious violent crimes.
Among many amendments, the proposed bail and sentencing reform legislation will address the growing violence against first responders across the country through changes to the criminal code. Fraser says crimes against paramedics, firefighters, and emergency workers will be treated more seriously at sentencing.
If we're going to count on people to keep our community safe, the very least we can do is to ensure that the law returns the favor. People who are subjected to assaults when they're trying to save lives, when they're trying to fight fires, do not deserve to be seeing people who may assault them treated with impunity by the criminal justice system.
Kyle Ross is the president of MGEU, the union representing Winnipeg paramedics. A recent survey by MGEU found that just under 25% of Winnipeg paramedics say they face violence on the job every day. Ross points out that though harsher penalties for crimes against first responders may help, it ultimately requires a worker to get assaulted before there can be action.
Right now we have workers off the job. We have many injured paramedics right now, which is causing them to be short-staffed. And if we can find ways to keep them on the job, that'll help Winnipeggers. And right now, our workers, they're being injured all the time.
He says there needs to be more investment in preventing the violence, but exactly how is a big question for this societal issue. Sav Jones, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations held its annual General Assembly in Yorkton this past week. Indigenous veterans, advancing Indigenous issues, and finances were discussed, but the controversial forensic audit was off limits. Here's APTN's Rachel May with an update.
When chiefs arrived at the Assembly, the forensic audit by Indigenous Services Canada and KPMG, which found $34 million in ineligible, questionable, and unsupported spending, was not on the agenda. Sources at the Assembly tell APTN that Shoal Lake Chief Marcel Head moved to add the topic, but after a 30-minute discussion and vote, the motion was defeated. The source also said that just under 40 chiefs and proxies were at the meeting on day one, but a few more filtered in over the course of the day. Chief Bobby Cameron had several motions which were approved, including inviting King Charles to the 150th anniversary of Treaty 6 and to do a study on the impact First Nations have on the economy. First Vice Chief David Pratt also had a motion passed to allocate $1 million a year from the First Nations Trust Fund to support the First Nations Health Ombudsperson Office. The Assembly also honored veteran and former Chief James MacArthur of Pheasant Rump Nakota Nation, who served tours in Vietnam and Korea. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Earlier this week, the city of Richmond near Vancouver held an information session for homeowners affected by the recent court decision giving the Cowichan tribe on Vancouver Island title to land currently occupied by private landowners. APTN's Tina House was there and has more.
It was standing room only as a few hundred people showed up at the information session held by Richmond City Council. However, that information session turned heated.
Why did you guys not reach out to us? I'm asking you. You're the mayor. You're supposed to know everything that's going on in Richmond. I pay my taxes to you. Why did you not reach out to us?
Do the lawyers want to address that one?
Yes.
No, cool it, guys.
Tony Capuccinello-Arici is the lawyer for the city of Richmond. He stated that it was up to the plaintiff to have notified the homeowners, but the crowd strongly disagreed. In August, the BC Supreme Court ruled that the Cowichan tribes have Aboriginal title over a portion of the land on the Fraser River, shown here within the black highlighted area on the map. The case centered around Aboriginal title to approximately 1,846 acres of their traditional summer village, Tuluktunis, and surrounding lands on the south shore of Lulu Island, which is now part of the city of Richmond. Throughout the 5-year-long battle, the city of Richmond, the Musqueam Indian Band, Tawasin First Nation, and the province of BC argued in court, but lost. The landowners here are worried and have raised serious concerns over what will happen to their property value and how exactly the case of the rights and title being given to the Cowichan First Nation will affect them.
Will each individual owner have to challenge their assessment on a year-to-year basis while this goes on and our property values are decreased?
All those negative things, home equity, all that is plummeted. There's a cloud. If your property is within the area outlined in black, there certainly is a real concern. And the only solution, unfortunately, is to have this matter overturned on appeal.
Last week, the Cowichan First Nation issued a letter stating they are not challenging the effectiveness or validity of the title held by individual private landowners. The ruling does not erase private property. Mayor Brody was asked about that letter.
The Cowichan issued a letter yesterday saying that really this meeting is overreaction and that basically that the landowners don't have to worry about anything. We very strongly disagree with that, with the sentiments in that letter.
The City of Richmond, Province of BC, the Musqueam Indian Band, and Tawasin First Nation are all appealing the decision. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
A new episode of APTN Investigates debuts tonight. We've got a preview for you after the break. Welcome back. Winnipeg Comic-Con took place over last weekend and brought in all ages of fans. The convention featured guests like Lou Diamond Phillips from La Bamba, Sean Astin from Lord of the Rings and Stranger Things, and voice actor Linda Ballantyne as Sailor Moon. They all signed autographs and participated in some of the events during their activities during the event. Julia Ross attended day one and caught up with some of the fans.
I made my costume and I made his.
The Winnipeg Comic-Con was held this past weekend at the RBC Convention Centre downtown. The convention featured a 25-foot Stay Puft marshmallow from the Ghostbusters, cosplay meetups, gaming, autographs with celebrity guests, a 100,000 square foot shopping area featuring artists, comics, and more.
This is my first Comic-Con actually. I haven't been here like too long, but I got to look at some of the booths and it's pretty nice.
The con drew in over 35,000 fans over the 3 days. It was Winnipeg's 5th edition of the convention. With the largest urban Indigenous population in Canada, many fans gathered and represented.
My favorite part of it is definitely looking around for new stuff to add to my costume. I've been looking at a lot of things, mostly, swords.
Spence and Flett both said that costumes are a big part of why they are loving Comic-Con.
Definitely seeing everyone in costumes. It seems awesome seeing people with these costumes that they either found or put together themselves. It's super cool.
Next year's Winnipeg Comic-Con will take place on Halloween weekend and will have an extra spooky twist if you missed this year. Unfortunately, due to timing issues, we couldn't speak with any celebrities. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Looks like a fun time. APTN Investigates is just minutes away. Following a year of tragic loss, video journalist Rob Smith returns to his family's traditional homeland in Kingcome Inlet, BC. Back on the land and with the help of his elders, Rob documents an intimate and personal journey, a path towards healing out of darkness. Here's a preview.
This valley is the homeland of the Jaudano people. The Kingcome River flows through it. It's our highway. We've been here for thousands of years. My name is Rob Smith. I'm a journalist.
It's so important for me personally to be here this year.
2024 was a year to grieve. Our family lost 3 of our own. 2 sisters who I'd grown up with, and a younger brother I never got the chance to know.
It really is the hardest thing to want to even understand when our children go before us. I was born here. I was one of the very few people born in Kingcome. I've recognized its beauty, but I've also recognized the difficulties that we as a people have had and have not always carried out who we are as a people based on the traumas that we face. And that's still happening today.
And you can watch that episode of APTN Investigates in about 1 minute from now. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. You can always find more and stay up to date with the latest by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.